Hello everyone, Andy here. I didn't expect such a response to my last post, but I'm thrilled I did. This gives me hope that you guys may be able to help us after all. I noticed a couple of you guys said it may be a skinwalker or a wendigo. Truth is, we're still not even sure after talking with the old man. What we do know is that whatever lurks in those woods is old, ancient. It certainly isn't there to make friends either. I'll just jump right in where I left off and fill you guys in. After we got back into our room, we immediately started panicking and trying to figure out what the fuck was happening. "Are you sure it was that guy?" Tommy whispered, pointing towards the door. "Yes, I'm fucking sure," I replied in the same manner. "The only difference was his eyes. He had no pupils, I swear to God." As we conversed back and forth, footsteps booming down the hallway silenced our pitter-patter. After an intense moment of hearing the footsteps approach, 3 heavy knocks made us jump. I ran to the door and unlocked it, opening to see the old man standing with a cigarette dangling from his mouth. "Sheriff Bennett's on his way," he said as he looked back and forth at each one of us. "You boys got no idea the shit you just started up, do you?" "Name's Arthur." At least we knew what to call him now. "What the fuck was that, man?" I finally blurted, unable to take the tension anymore. He looked at me for a second, then sighed, before his shoulders sagged and he took a deep breath. "I don't know," he said with a shrug of his shoulders. "No one does. All we know is once you attract the attention of one of them, it don't stop." "Don't stop until what?" Ryan asked, his voice quivering. "What do you think?" he chuckled. "Till you're dead." My heart sank as he spoke those last words. As crazy as what he was saying, deep down, I knew he was speaking the truth. We attracted the attention of something pure evil. I could feel it in my bones. Somehow I knew that if we tried to leave, it wouldn't help. As if the old man, Arthur, read my thoughts, spoke up again. "Don't think about leaving either. Sheriff's blocking off all the exits. You boys ain't just up and leaving us with the shitstorm you just created." We all looked at each other, and I could see the panic form on Ryan and Tommy's face. Felt it on my own too. This was the last thing we all expected, and we were in way over our heads. "What do we do?" Ryan finally broke the silence. "My advice? Stay put till the sheriff gets here. He gonna do his best to get you boys out of here as soon as possible. But honestly, only a handful of people get out of this mess," Arthur said as he put his cigarette out on the dresser. We weren't about to ignore the only advice we were gonna get, so we all took a seat on the beds and bit our nails out of the nerves. Why the fuck did I have the bright idea of coming here? Bigfoot? Really? Of course it's my luck to come across something that made Bigfoot look like a snuggly bunny. Arthur stayed in the room with us while we waited for the sheriff and answered all of our questions as best as he could. Still, we didn't have much to go off of. Just that whatever it was could manifest itself as whatever it could to help strike fear into us, or confuse us. One of its hunting tactics, seemingly. Makes sense as to why it appeared to me as Arthur. He made me feel uneasy when I first met him, but after talking to him a bit, I realized he's actually a decent guy. He seemed to really care if we made it out of this. "Arthur!" a deep voice down the hall bellowed. "That's Sheriff Bennett. Let's go." Arthur motioned us to follow. We hurried down the hall back down to the reception room where we first booked in. Standing at his desk was a dark-haired man, probably in his mid-40s with a full but groomed beard. He had a look of pure anger plastered across his face, which I guess was due to our reckless actions. "Sheriff, these are the boys I was telling you about," Arthur pointed at us as we stood nervously. The sheriff glared at us, that scowl never leaving his face. "Which one of you did Arthur warn not to go in the woods?" he spoke finally. I reluctantly raised my right hand. "You and your friends die, or anyone else for that matter, is on you. Fucking idiot." Sheriff Bennett growled angrily as he stared me down. I hung my head in shame as the sheriff turned to Arthur, whispering something I couldn't hear. After he was finished, Arthur nodded, then the sheriff left. "Okay, boys, get back to your room and try to get some sleep," Arthur said as he clapped his hands together. "How are we supposed to sleep knowing that thing's after us?" Tommy bellowed. "Close your eyes and pray, I guess," Arthur said before he turned and walked back into his office. "Well, let's go, I guess," I said, defeated. We really couldn't do anything at the second anyway. Couldn't leave. They wouldn't help us. Guess I can't really blame them. I wouldn't want some evil thing taking its anger out on me because a couple morons decided to skip town after waking it up. Once we got back in our room, we decided we'd take turns sleeping. One of us would stay up and keep an eye out while the other two got some sleep. Then we'd rotate. During my time to rest, I was jolted awake by my shoulder being violently shaken. "Andy! Andy, wake the fuck up!" It was Tommy. My heart started racing immediately. "What's happening?" I blurted as I tried to get my bearings about me. "Shh!" He frantically put his finger to his lips. He slowly pointed towards the window, and that's when I noticed his hand was shaking uncontrollably. I got up and crawled towards the window, barely poking the corner of my eye up so whatever I was looking at couldn't see me back. I saw the sheriff slowly walking back and forth, like he was patrolling the motel. It actually made me feel slightly better knowing he was out there keeping watch. Just as I was about to turn around and ask Tommy what exactly was wrong, the sheriff stopped moving. I squinted to get a better look, but I still couldn't make out any details other than his uniform and hair. He stopped and froze for a solid minute before he finally moved again, and when he did, goosebumps filled my entire body. His head slowly rotated 180 degrees until he was looking directly at me. There was no way he could see into our dark room, but at the same time I knew he was looking directly at me. "Call Arthur," I whispered to Tommy as quietly as I could, but loud enough he could still hear me. As soon as the words left my mouth, the sheriff's head snapped to the side like a confused dog, sending a loud popping noise through the air. Tommy and I froze, afraid to move or make a sound. The thing posing as the sheriff did the same, frozen as it stared at us. I could feel my heart beat in my throat as I watched it stand motionless. Then after a few more seconds of looking at us, it disappeared into the woods, never looking away as its neck was still twisted around, staring at us. We didn't move for a few minutes, afraid it was still watching. After we were sure it was gone, we slowly made our way to the phone. I dialed the front desk, and after a few rings, the other line picked up. "What is it?" Arthur grumbled, sounding half asleep. "We just saw the sheriff out the window. Only something was wrong with him," I whispered as quietly as I could, but loud enough he could hear me. I could hear him jump through the phone as my words woke him up. "Sheriff's at the station," he blurted. "Shh!" I tried to quiet him. A loud screeching sound outside filled the night. "Lock your window, I'll be right there," Arthur yelled before he hung up. I scrambled to the window to turn the lock, and as I did I saw shadows darting in the tree line. "What's going on?" Ryan asked groggily. Before I could reply, Tommy ran over and clamped his hand over Ryan's mouth, shushing him. I looked back out the window and dread took over me, making my body feel numb. The tree line was filled with dozens of glowing white eyes. A loud thud at the door made all three of us jump. "Let me in!" Arthur shouted. Tommy let go of Ryan's mouth and ran to unlock the door. Arthur barged in and locked the door behind him, a rifle in his arms with a pistol strapped to his side. He was panting heavily. "What in the fuck is happening?" Ryan screamed. We all shushed him and the room felt silent.
"What in the fuck is happening?"
Something completely distorted copied Ryan from out the window.